If you knew that you would die today, saw the face of God and love, would you change? Would you change? If you knew that love can break your heart when you're down so low you cannot fall, would you change? Would you change? How bad, how good does it need to get? How many losses, how much regret? What chain reaction would cause an effect? Makes you turn around, makes you try to explain, makes you forgive and forget, makes you change, makes you change. If you knew that you would be alone, knowing right, being wrong, would you change? Would you change? If you knew that you would find the truth that brings up pain and can't be soothed, would you change? Would you change? How bad, how good does it need to get? How many losses, how much regret? What chain reaction would cause an effect? Makes you turn around, makes you try to explain, makes you forgive and forget, makes you change, makes you change. Are you so upright that you can't be bent when it comes to blows? Are you so sure you won't be crawling? If not for the good, why risk falling? Why risk falling? If everything you think you know makes your life unbearable, would you change? Would you change? If you've broken every rule and vow, and hard times come to bring you down, would you change? Would you change? If you knew that you would die today, if you saw the face of God in love, would you change? Would you change? Would you change? Would you change? If you saw the face of God enough, if you saw the face of God enough, would you change? Would you change?
Please join me in prayer. We give thanks for this glorious and beautiful winter day where we've come together to celebrate the allness of God that permeates all life and all creation. We know that where comfort ends, transformation begins. We have access to an unlimited source of power knowledge, and presence that we co-create with and can create the lives that we want. We step into this life in the face of fear, trusting, knowing that this power is on our side. I give thanks for everyone who's come together to make this service possible. For our musician, our AV team, for our practitioners, for our hospitality, for our Reverend Jenn, whose message will resonate with everyone within the sound of her voice. I know that each and every person that hears this will hear what they need to hear in order to express as the allness of God that they are. I give thanks for everyone here in this space and everyone in the sound of my voice, knowing that each and every one are unique divine expressions of the one life that is God. I release these words in the divine law where they're already done in the divine mind. I let this go, I let it be. And together we affirm, and so it is. Our first words of inspiration today come from George Bernard Shaw. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. From Robert Fritz, you can learn to recognize the structures at play in your life and change them so that you can create what you really want to create. From our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes, we walk by falling forward. Water falls by its own weight. Planets eternally fall through space. Everything sustains itself in nature. The only reason humanity is limited is that they have not allowed the divine within them to more completely express.
This week, we continue our theme of divine discomfort. And we turn our attention here just for a moment to nature as we look at where comfort ends, transformation begins. And I have on the slide a picture of a chrysalis, which is one of the greatest examples we have for transformation. I think it's used a lot, but I'm sure there are others. But at one point in time, the little caterpillar starts building this little gizmo that it crawls into, and it builds it up around it, and it goes to sleep, sort of, and it goes into this transformation process. And there's a lot of things that are happening during this time frame, and one of the things that I want to share is that little container that holds that beautiful caterpillar waiting for it to prepare to work its way out of there and demonstrate this beautiful butterfly that it has now transformed into, is the work that has to happen, the discomfort that has to happen, the complete change of this little creature, if you want to call it that, into something else. And if that is impaired, if that is impacted, if that is interfered with in any way, shape, or form, the end result is tragedy. So my son found a cocoon in the ground and out when we used to live out east of Colorado Springs, and he brought it in the house and he put it in his little terrarium where he put lots of creatures. This one I wasn't worried about because I pretty much figured it was non-existent, but what happened was eventually we started to see movement inside this cocoon, and he was really excited, and we were waiting to see what was going to happen. Well, evidently when it fell from wherever it fell from, wherever it hit, it impacted the being inside. And as it struggled to get its way out, as it struggled to work to get its way out, he discovered that one entire wing was deformed, that it had not formed properly because something had happened. It had been impacted by something external. Are you getting the gist on this? You know, something external happened, it affected something internal, and then what happened was when the butterfly finally became free, it was not able to fly. And I think it lived in his bedroom for a couple of days, which might sound scary. But anyway, it was there, it was present, but it couldn't fly, it couldn't survive, and eventually it passed. And so again, I just want to remind us of the amazing lessons we learn from nature about change, about transformation, about the things that happen to us, about the discomfort. I wonder if there is discomfort outside with some of the things that are starting to wake up, because we are getting close to that time of the year where winter is it's going to be over eventually, I'm certain of it. But winter is leaving us, spring is coming, and yet we had a heavy snowfall yesterday, and everything is covered again, and I wonder, is there discomfort in that for nature? Because I have certainly heard that there's a lot of discomfort in it for us, because there have been a lot of complaints. But anyway, let's move on and talk about this. So I love the fact that we are of one mind. This week, Ken reached out to me with the songs that he wanted to perform today. And our musicians always look at the theme, the talk title. You guys do such an incredible job. And I was so thrilled to hear that he was going to do this song that you just heard by Tracy Chapman. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Tracy Chapman in just a minute, because the timing of all of this is absolute, again, perfection. But one of the phrases in the song that he shared is one of the verses is, how bad, how good does it need to get? How many losses, how much regret? What chain reaction, what cause and effect makes you turn around, makes you try to explain, makes you forgive and forget, makes you change? So we're going to talk about the things that get in our way, where we refuse to change. And I think one of the challenges we have is I don't think we much care for that word, transformation. That's a huge word. That's a big word. If I am going to talk about stepping into transformation, I'm very aware of the fact that everything that I know to be a part of my world today, all of my habitual behaviors, all of my things that I've got going on and stuff, is probably going to drastically change to something else. And because of that unknown, because of how vast and great that seems to be, we kind of hold back. And I think sometimes that holds us back from making those changes. So I have a quote to share with you from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. And he says this: "Fear brings limitation and lack in its wake, and destroys the happiness and possibility of a greater degree of livingness to those who suffer from it. Fear blocks the more complete givingness of the Spirit to its highest form of manifestation on this planet, which is humankind." So number one, let's take this from the end and go backwards. The highest form of manifestation on this planet is what we experience, humankind. When we manifest, when something manifests through us or around us or because of us. And to know that is a great thing, but to know that any little bit of fear and doubt can block that process. God is willing to give to us whatever we are willing to accept and embrace, and we can shut it down and block it out in a heartbeat. So our willingness, our openness, our desire to surrender, if you will, is a big part of that process, and that's something we want to look at. What Holmes is teaching us with this quote is the simple fact that we can choose limitation and fear. Sure we can. And that's going to be our experience. If that's what we choose, that's what we will experience. These ideas, beliefs, and concepts around lack or limited self-worth impact us greatly. It doesn't take much for you to doubt yourself, does it? It doesn't take much for me. And I'm pretty much gung-ho 99% of the time, but it doesn't take much for me to do something or someone says something and I think, oh, what did they mean by that? Did I mess up? Did I do something wrong? And when we go into that doubt, when we go into that fear, we start to limit our experience. We start to limit who we are. And yet we know that Spirit is here. Spirit is right here, right now, ready to give anything and everything that we desire. The highest form of manifestation. I love that. I'm not even certain if I can imagine what that highest level would be. I have been surprised. Spirit has done some amazing things in my life and it's knocked my socks off. It's been like, oh my gosh. And I don't ever want to go, I can't believe it, because of course I believe it because, it's here and I prayed for it and all that good stuff. But that's the first place we go is, oh my gosh, how did this even happen? So let's start to live in that space as we go through this week and know that we're going to step out of that comfort zone, and let's don't get all psyched out about that word transformation, because it's a step-by-step process, a little bit at a time. So this month, I mentioned last week, is Black History Month, and I want to share stories that can support our deeper education regarding Black history. But I want to say something right here, right now. It's called American history. There are stories about individuals, African Americans, Black people, who've supported this country, who did amazing things, and we never heard those stories. But those stories brought us to the place where we are today. They brought America to where we are today. And the fact that we didn't have that information, that we didn't know those stories, is sad. And yet what we're doing is we're bringing those forth now so that we can get some understanding and some clear understanding. And I want to talk today about someone who is not really part of our history, but who is making history today. And the individual's name is Tracy Chapman. And one of her phrases from the song that Ken sang a little bit earlier is, if everything you know makes your life unbearable, would you change? If you are miserable, would you be willing to change the things that are going to make you less miserable? And those changes oftentimes have to do with our belief system. We've adapted or adopted a belief that we think is true. It's taken us out. It's taken us apart. We're having challenges with it. Okay, so would you change it? Would you be willing to look at something different? This past week, what I was talking about with the perfect timing with Ken bringing this forth, Tracy Chapman appeared on the Grammy Awards show and sang a duet with Luke Combs. And the duet was her song, Fast Cars, that she wrote back in 1989. And it was an incredible performance. And people were just going nuts about how incredible it was. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a perfect time for me to talk, for us to bring this forth. Ken brought the song forth, and we're going to talk about Tracy Chapman. With all of her fame and stardom over the years, there is so much more to this individual. She is known as, let me say what she is. She is known as a revolutionary Black woman who uses her music to express social and political discontent and to promote activism, especially for Black women. Her undeniable music talent is just a small portion of what ultimately makes her arguably one of the most successful and highly praised singer-songwriters of our time. She performs in the genre country music. That in and of itself is huge, huge. But let me tell you a little bit about her life. In 1988, she performed in London as part of the Human Rights Now worldwide concert tour that honored the 40th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights with Amnesty International. In that same year, she performed at a birthday party for South African activist Nelson Mandela for his 70th birthday, helping raise funds for South Africa's anti-apartheid movement. She just kind of walked out on stage one night carrying an acoustic guitar and rocked the world with her music and her heart and her intentions. She had a very challenging childhood. She grew up in a city where integration was in place. Some of us may remember integration. Black children were bused away from their familiar communities to white communities, and white children were bused to the communities of black children. And nobody that I can remember at the time was particularly happy about any of that. And so think of a little child in that time frame, a black child suddenly showing up in a white neighborhood at a time when people were not happy about this, and there were riots. And she endured abuse and shouts and comments from people that were very derogatory to her. Most of the kids back in that time spent more time at home than they did at school. They just couldn't pull it together to deal with what was going on. She was also kind of a bookish child. I mean, she liked to read a lot. And so she was bullied by her classmates for that. Because, you know, anything about you that's not like me, we thought that that was a good thing to talk about for whatever reason. She is regularly associated with Amnesty International and the American Foundation for AIDS Research. She's done work with Free Tibet and the anti-war lobby. She considers herself a feminist because she says that while we have made gains, there is still a need for attention in the legal world regarding violence against women. She supports a lot of nonprofits and she does work every day. And one of the areas where she works the hardest is with the elementary schools in her neighborhood. She has given back to her Ohio hometown, working with the elementary schools to produce an educational music video highlighting achievements of the African American history. She also funded an essay contest for high school students titled Crossroads in Black History. So consider this. A young black child, 11 years old, not feeling wanted at school, not feeling wanted in her neighborhood, being ridiculed and abused, and yet she has risen to this place of demonstrating to each of us all that we can be as a human society. So look at the quote again. If everything you think you know makes your life unbearable, would you? Would you change? And that's the question that we want to carry with us in our hearts this week. If this isn't feeling right, if this isn't feeling good to me, I need to do something different. You know, y'all know I just moved a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I was in a very uncomfortable situation, and when I finally stood up and said, I don't deserve this, and this isn't working for me, everything shifted, everything changed, everything fell into place. That's how life works. That's how Spirit works through us. So I have this quote from Annette White. In case you're a little concerned about trying something new. Each time you try something for the very first time, you will grow. A little piece of the fear of the unknown is removed and replaced with a sense of empowerment. So the thing I want to remind you with this particular quote this week is that take a moment, take a breath, feel good about what you've done, feel good about how far you've come. Because we go charging off and we're knocking down obstacles in the way and we're trying to do all of this wonderful work and we're trying to make our lives work and stuff, and we forget to stop, to pause, to just hold on to that space that says, oh my gosh, Spirit in me was just incredible with that. Look what we accomplished. How wonderful was that? It's great. Andy Molinsky tells us this. No one likes to move beyond their comfort zone. I don't even think Andy needed to tell us that, did you? No one likes to move beyond their comfort zone. We get into this place of comfort, and it's so funny because life changes constantly around us. Our bodies change constantly within us. I mean, it's constant. And yet we want to hold on to that one little secure place, that one little moment, and we don't want to let it go. We don't want it to change. Anyway, Andy says this: no one likes to move beyond their comfort zone. But as the saying goes, that's where the magic happens. It's where we grow, learn, and develop in a way that expands our horizons beyond what we thought was possible. And the more we test it, the better it gets, the more beautiful it gets, the more fascinating it gets. So what are a couple things we can do this week? Well, we have these wonderful things called spiritual practices. So one of the ones I want to talk about right now is mindfulness and meditation. Don't get hung up on how to meditate. We go into this little bit, I call it brain damage. We go into this little bit of brain damage. Oh my gosh, I was trying to meditate and then a thought showed up and oh my gosh, now I can't do it and I'll have to come back and try a half hour later. No. Allow yourself to free your mind. Allow yourself to let go of all of the thoughts and the chatter. And as you sit in the quiet and just allow that moment, those moments to pass, when the voices show up, when the sounds show up, when all the visuals show up, when it's like, oh my gosh, you've got to go do this in 30 minutes, whatever, thank it. Thank you, universe, for reminding me I'm going back into this time. The more we practice, the better it gets, the better we can tune out some of the challenges of the world. I have discovered in my new home that I have more peace and quiet outside and inside than I have had for months. Just silence. And I love it. And yet there have been moments when I've thought, I need to do something. I need to make some noise. I'm not used to this. It's crazy. I might turn some music on. And music is an amazing spiritual practice. Create a playlist that helps get you moving, gets you motivated, gets you excited about facing the day. I started working on that this week, and there are some songs from ages ago that have come back to me that really speak to me, that really lift me. So meditation is one. Music can also be a form of meditation. So can dance, if you want to get up and dance. And if you're not that comfortable, you can sit in a chair and kind of pretend you're dancing. It works just as well. But it helps you just kind of get into that energy of something breaking through for you. And then there's that whole piece called mindfulness. And mindfulness is just that ability to be aware of your surroundings, to be aware of what you're doing, to pay attention to what's going on, to sit down for a meal and take that first bite and savor it and allow your mind and body to recognize that you are now eating. We have gotten into such a fast-paced world that we don't even know what we're doing half the time. Well, we kind of know, but we kind of don't know because we're not paying attention, because we're just going on to the next thing and going on to the next thing. So mindfulness, meditation, music. Oh my gosh, they all start with the letter M. It'll be so easy to remember that this week. Then the other spiritual practice I want to talk about is affirmations. We tell everyone, we teach the philosophy of creating an affirmation. We pray in the affirmative. And in the affirmative, we pray as though it's the present moment right here and right now, and it's already happening. Because somewhere in the energy of universal wisdom, it is coming forth. And so that's what we do. So when you hear yourself grumbling, when you hear yourself concerned about something and you're saying something negative, stop and say it again in an affirmative statement. The opposite. Maybe I have a sense that I'm not feeling well, my energy's low, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and that's where the brain kicks in and goes, oh my gosh, am I catching a cold? Am I getting sick? Is something happening? Do I have the flu? And then we go down that path because that's what we just woke up in the body. But to stop and say, oh no, I'm a little tired. I can take a nap. I can rest. I can have some quiet time. And I'm going to be fine. Everything is fine. I am healthy, whole, and complete right now. That's an affirmation. So affirmations can be really great for us. And then the other piece of our spiritual practices is visualization. If what you're looking at and what you're surrounded by right now doesn't work for you, visualize something better. Allow yourself to play with the energy of universal wisdom and imagination and create something new. Create something different and see it. How will it feel when you are experiencing it? What is that going to be like for you? And then bring that all into the present and allow it. And that's why we're going to be doing some visioning here at New Dawn next week, because that to take whatever's going on and to allow ourselves to vision on it and allow Spirit to guide us through that and give us some insights and answers is the perfect solution. That's how we move forward. And these things always, always support the mind and the soul. Albert Einstein once said, "Once we accept our limits, we move beyond them." We move beyond them because as soon as we recognize that we were holding a limitation, we accomplish that, and the next thing opens up, which is more expansive. And we begin to find that the only limitation we had was within our heads. So we can use visualization, affirmations, mindfulness, meditation, music, dance, so many things that we can do. We can use these to expand our boundaries and to allow us to seek new things outside of our regular routine, to try something different. When we step outside of the comfort zone and we go into prayer and we are guided through the next steps, we find out that we are increasing our self-confidence, we are enhancing our problem-solving skills, and we find that we have a broader perspective in life. For the past couple of weeks, I have been doing a lot of prayer and affirmation about my part in the world. Not my part in Colorado, not my part in my family, not my part in a spiritual community, but what is it I'm bringing to the world? I'm working to expand my awareness for all I am to do in ministry and where that can lead and what I can do and all the people's lives that I can support and touch. We have a tendency to think small. We want to reel it all in where we might have control. And let me tell you something, there's no such thing. You don't have control. You never have, you never will. You thought you did, it's a lie. So let's don't go there, okay? And let's go to that place of let me expand and just allow to see what all it is I can do. When we go into prayer, we pray for the people who don't have all of the things that we have. We pray for those who are hungry, for those who are not clothed, for those who are not protected or sheltered in the weather. We pray for people who don't understand that we're all one, that don't understand loving and compassion, that have challenges with accepting someone that's a little bit different than them. We take that to prayer. Well, I also include in my prayer that I get to be shown. I get to be led to what I need to do to support that process. Because we know that when we take action, that's when the prayers are made manifest. And so I'm not going to just be out there speaking the words, and I speak them from my heart, and I have all that feeling, and that's a good piece. That's a very good piece, but I personally need to know what's mine to do, and where am I going with this. One of the things that I love about this Einstein quote, because he talks about we move beyond our limitations, and there's no turning back. As we take this step, as we move outside of the comfort zone, as we take that risk, as we do more, and we evolve and we grow, and yes, we start to transform. We can't go back to the way we once were. That person doesn't exist anymore. If I went back and tried to think, act, and behave like I did back in my 30s, well, first of all, I wouldn't be very comfortable with that because my 30s were a disaster, but that's not the point. But think about that. So now, where I am today, where we are today, where can we go from here? What can we do from here? Thomas Troward, who was a judge that influenced Ernest Holmes quite a bit back in the day, and we even have classes where we talk about Troward, said, "Belief in limitation is the one and only thing that causes limitation, because we thus impress limitation upon the creative principle. And in proportion as we lay that belief aside, our boundaries will expand and increasing life and more abundant blessings will be ours." Did you ever think about that? That something is only existing in your life because you have a belief in it? And if you change that belief, it can dissipate. We believe that we are limited. People have taught us that. We've been told probably 1,000 times before we reached our teenage years all the things we could not do. Could not do. You can't do that, you're going to die if you try that, you're going to break your arm, you're going to, we had all those. My mother was the best. Oh my God, I mean, 30 to 40 in the morning before breakfast. I mean, I could hear all these things that I could not do, should not do, better watch out kind of stuff. We have been taught that we live in a world of limitation, and I'm here to tell you that's not the truth. The universe is limitless. And so if we can change that belief and know that there's an expansive ability for us to do whatever we choose, whatever we desire, whatever we want to make happen, oh my gosh, we are enhancing the creative principle, and we're creating a more abundant life. How incredible is that? So I encourage you this week to embrace discomfort, maybe a little bit more than you did last week. Recognizing growth lies beyond those boundaries, lies beyond the comfort zone. And let us use it as a catalyst for change and personal evolution. You can make a commitment to yourself to lean into the unknown, challenging your fears and pushing beyond those self-imposed limitations. What if Mom didn't know what she was talking about? She kind of did, but she kind of didn't. What if that person who tried to limit you, who tried to restrict you, who tried to hold you in a smaller container than what you deserve to be held in, just didn't get it, just didn't know? And what if you're allowing yourself to, right now, this moment, today, to embrace the idea that there's so much more for you, so much more. So this week I encourage you to use our spiritual tools that we have at our fingertips. And let's take time for the quiet. Let's take time for the peace. Let's calm down some of the chatter. And let's take those moments and look at how we can expand beyond limitation. And so I leave you as we close today with one question, just one. If everything you think you know right now, today, is making your life unbearable, would you change? Please join me in prayer. In this moment, right here and right now, right here, right now, in this moment, in this space, in this place, I know that there is a power present, a power that can overcome any obstacle, any challenge, that can solve any problem, that can heal this planet, that can help us see the way to love and light and connection and unity of one human being with another human being. And this power, this presence, I call God. It is alive within me, in my heart, in my mind, in my being, in my lungs. As I breathe it in and breathe it out, it becomes one with me. And I know that this oneness that I share with this power is also the oneness I share with each and every individual on planet Earth. I recognize and realize we are connected. We are united. We are one. And this message gets to be spoken and declared throughout the land to everyone. And our part that we play in this process for each and every one of us individually is to do what we can do to move beyond our limitation, knowing that God did not instill any limits for us. Spirit did not give us any restrictive mannerisms. And all we need to do is shift that thinking, shift that ability to be held by that thought and move beyond that belief into something more expansive, more beautiful, more incredible, and more powerful. By God, that feels so good. It is so beautiful to know this truth for me and for everyone. And so as we embrace that this day and we take it with us this week, we know that we are guided, guarded, directed, and protected by that power, by that spirit, by that truth, that light. And knowing this, we know that we cannot fail. We cannot fail. And so we move forward and we support one another and we give that love as best we can and we share and we grow and we transform. I know this is good. I know it is perfect. And I know it is already alive in the mind of God. It is percolating for each and every one of us, and all of the good and all of the wonderful things that we are seeking are coming forth for us right now, this moment. And so knowing all of this, I give great thanks. I give great thanks for the power of prayer. I give great thanks for each and every member of this community and everyone who's watching this talk online and all people everywhere. I give thanks for all of this, for all of them. I know it's good, it's perfect, and it's all God, and we just let it go right here and right now. We let it be as we say together, and so it is.
If there's one thing in my life that's missing, it's the time that I spend alone, sailing on the cool and bright blue water. Lots of those friendly people, and they're showing me ways to go. And I never want to lose their inspiration. When it's time for a cool change, I know that it's time for a cool change. And now that my life is so prearranged, I know that it's time for a cool change. Well, I was born in the side of water, and it's there that I feel my best. The albatross and the whales, they are my brothers. It's kind of a special feeling when you're out on the sea alone, staring at the full moon like a lover. When it's time for a cool change, I know that it's time for a cool change. And now that my life is so prearranged, I know that it's time for a cool change. Well, I've never been romantic, sometimes I don't care. I know it may sound selfish, but let me breathe the air. If there's one thing in my life that's missing, it's the time that I spend alone, standing on the cool and bright clear water. It's kind of a special feeling when you're out on the sea alone, staring at the full moon like a lover. When it's time for cool change, know that it's time for cool change. But now that my life is so prearranged, I know that it's time for cool change. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. A cool change. I know that it's time for a cool change.
Hello, I'm Reverend Jenn Wilde, Senior Minister for New Dawn Center for Spiritual Living. New Dawn Center is a global community, and we welcome all people, all paths, all ways of thinking, all philosophies. So know that you are welcome here, and thank you for joining our online community.